order, if that's good with everyone. Councilmember DeProto is on his way. He says he's 2 minutes out. So what I think I'll do is I'll call the meeting to order. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go into citizens' comments, and then we'll go into the design presentation, and then if there's any possible action at that point. So this is a joint meeting, so Mr. Ireland, would you like to call the Board of Finance to order?
Sure, I'd like to call the Town of Cromwell Board of Finance special meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Cromwell, Paris, one or the other.
Okay, Cromwell, Paris, all the same. And Mr. Ireland, will you guide us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Happy to.
Alrighty. Do you want to move to your next item, and then I'll move to my next? You have 2 more items than I do.
Okay, so can I have a motion? Sharon, are we good with the agenda? Anything to, yeah, we're good. Yes, we do. Hey, Dan, how are you? Jamie, how are you? Okay, we do, but the approval of the agenda is up here first, so I just want to make sure agenda-wise we're good. All right, so we're set there. Can I have a motion to seat Mr. Quigliano in place of Mr. Maley?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Wagonowski, second Mr. Blanchett. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Yeah, I think we're good to move into the WIS presentation then.
Okay, so we have citizens' comments on our agenda. Yes, Amanda, do you want me to read that email we got from a citizen? Yeah. Okay, let me pull it up. Did that come in yesterday or today, Amanda? I apologize.
Yesterday.
Thank you. Okay. To whom it may concern, my name is Joseph DaVincio, lifelong resident of Cromwell, also a 35 years experience in landscaping and field maintenance. I've seen this town grow into the town it is today. I'd like to express my opinion about the WIS field. In my opinion, spending any money on those fields would be a waste of taxpayer money. Those fields have come a long way in the last 15 years. I've worked for the school system. The biggest problem is that they're overplayed. The groups from April 15th to November 1st. When do you want those fields to be worked on? And the groups that use the fields don't respect the town when they shut the fields down. I've gone by there plenty of times knowing the fields are closed and groups are choosing to play there anyways, mainly Chill Soccer. Plus, Chill Soccer is paid to play organization and they pay no money to the town or use those fields. I've also attached a photo of the middle school fields when my son played sports on those fields. We are just happy to have a field to play on. Lastly, this past Monday and Tuesday, when we got 1 to 2 inches of rain, I walked the West fields and there's no standing water on those fields. The Parks Department have been aerating those fields. They actually did it on Tuesday afternoon with a tractor and there's no water in the field. This is why putting money into these fields would be a waste of money. The last thing they are used for is youth soccer. In my opinion, they are perfectly fine for youth soccer. Thank you for your time, Joe. Yeah, thank you. And then there are 2 photos that are attached, which Amanda has for the minutes.
Please put an address.
Did he put an address, Amanda? I don't.
I'm not sure that mic's on.
It is.
You're good.
How about that? That's unusual that it's working the first go. Mike Canada, 136 Nooks Hill Road, Cromwell. I don't know about all you folks. I just got my tax bill, and I'm sitting back and saying, crap, it's out of control. $3 million or less to fix a field that is at a middle school for soccer when there are so many other projects in this town that need repair, that need money thrown at it. If you folks can find a way of getting a grant where it's absolutely no impact to the taxpayers, have at it. Have a ball. Knock yourself out. But if another penny out of the taxpayers' funds have to be spent on these fields, I say stop. We've got gates on Nooks Hill Road to address drainage problems. We've got gates on River Road to address drainage problems. Don't fix the problem, put up a gate. That's sounds good to me. There's so many other things that are of such a greater importance than this. The other comment I have to make is, if you're going to spend this kind of money, do something that benefits all of the people of Cromwell, the seniors, the youngsters, school kids, the middle-aged parents, everybody. This benefits one very small specific group on one very small specific location. And all I can ask you to do is stop the bleeding or get it funded for free. But please, more than anything, stop the bleeding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Canada. Any other citizens' comments? Mr. LeBlanc.
Hi, Jason LeBlanc, 3 Cedar Drive. So I just wanted to make a few corrections on some of the comments that were made. So the fields are not only used by Chill Soccer, they're also used by baseball and softball, as well as the WIS students who use them for field days and other stuff. So there's a much larger group than what's being talked about here. The gentleman who went out yesterday, and myself, I also went out yesterday. We're in the middle of a drought. The state of Connecticut's in a drought. And right now the fields really aren't being used because the sports seasons are over. So the fields are in good shape because there's no kids running on it. But if you go there in April, when it rains much more and they're used much more, then after a rain like we had the other day, they would be much, much worse. And it's the same thing in the fall too. And I know this because I ran Chill and also had students on there. So this problem and the cost, I agree the cost is high, but this cost is high because the town has delayed doing anything about it for over 20 years. And it's only gonna get more. It's not gonna get less, it's gonna get more for us if we decide that we wanna fix it, right? So I understand that there's other projects to be done in town, but at what point do we say, okay, we'll address this so that we don't have to put extra resources for the parks and maintenance people to come and core and do all the stuff that they're doing now? It's costing us more money to keep it where it is, the way it is, and at use where it is. Sometimes they have difficulty painting lines, sometimes they have to do extra stuff to keep it going, sometimes they have to fix the divots in there because of the water there. So if we fix them, and I hope the town will look at a fix, and we can't even consider grants until we pick one of the solutions that the engineering team has put forward to make it shovel ready. So if we want to get money other than the town taxpayers' money, we have to at least take this next step, and I hope that you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Any other citizens' comments? Any other citizens' comments? Okay. Hearing none, I'll close citizens' comments. Thank you both for coming to make your comments in person. And I just want to actually tell you I'm genuine in thanking you, because I think there's a lot of folks out there that, you know, they have other things going on, but you can write an email to us, we can read it into the record, you can come here and let your voice be heard, and I think it's important when people are part of the process. So before we move on to the presentation, let me just say that this money that is for the finalizing of the engineering, and Sharon and John and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, this is money that's already been allocated to just finish the design work. The intent that I think we have as a town council and Board of Finance, based off of our last conversation on this in January, is we want to get this project shovel-ready, because without it being shovel-ready, it's not eligible for any grants or state funding. We can't give them something and then say, well, give us money and we'll design it. We at this point right now, based off what they're looking for drainage projects like this, is they said of a project this size, they want to see the schematics, they want to see what they're actually going to be paying for. So to the extent that that's the case, that's our current intent, and I think that's important for us to realize in our discussion today. Is our decision is about, there's money from the engineering that we've already allocated. They've done the first portion of the work. Which one do we want them to design on? And we should be thinking about, to Mr. Canada's point, the funding and how much it would cost to do it, and what is the most viable for the town. And that's why the council invited Board of Finance to be part of this discussion today, because we recognize that this is a financial decision as much as it is a environmental decision, as much as it is a strategic decision and a playability decision. So with that, we'll move into the field presentation and design. We have passed out in your packet a copy of the January 20th presentation that we've already gone through. We're joined today by Mr. Harriman and by Mr. Chmielewski, I'm sorry. Ryan, I'm sorry. So I'll let the two of you have the floor.
All right, I'm going to get us started. For the record, John Harriman, Town Engineer. The presentation tonight, I proposed abbreviating it simply because we gave this very same presentation back in January. Nothing has changed. As you may recall, my My assistant and I spent the winter through June going out doing weekly gauging of the groundwater, and we observed the high groundwater elevation, I forget which week in March, but anyway, the data basically yielded that the high groundwater level observed this past year was 1 foot below the proposed underground system. So we have sufficient capacity within the system as designed. So there's really no major changes to the design, and what I would propose doing is with the understanding that what we have out there is a soils problem. We have topsoil that's not ideal, and then below the topsoil we have fill that is terrible. For those that don't know, it was formerly an agricultural field with herbicides and pesticide use, and because it was being turned into a public space, a school, there are DEP regulations that required that the town remove the top 3 feet of material out there and replace it. And unfortunately, the material that was replaced, I don't know, 20 years ago, whenever the WIS was built, is not ideal. It's unsuitable for drainage. It's, in my opinion, it really isn't suitable for much, but unfortunately it's under a sports field, which is not an ideal place for it. What I propose in this presentation is just going through the high points of what the 3 options are, talking about the costs, and talking about what the staff recommendation is, and hopefully getting some kind of a go-ahead in some direction from this group tonight, and we'll go from there. So I had previously recommended the big nuclear option, rip it all out, start anew, which was the most expensive, the most intrusive, the most downtime, and we've been considering that, and I think the downtime is probably the worst. The 18 to 24 months of not having fields and not really having a viable backup location for these activities to occur is one of the reasons that I'm leaning towards option 1. Another reason is that with the way we are heading on major infrastructure projects, we are more and more leaning towards grants. I think there's a snowball's chance that we're going to get a grant for $3.1 million or $2 million. I think we have a pretty decent chance of getting a grant for around $1 million plus, which is what we got down here for the football field. We got $1.5 million for the football field. This past year we didn't do quite as well, but we got some money. But I don't think $3 million in state assistance is realistic. And if we were to try to partner with the state, they're going to require us to have a commitment up front. So I would be coming to this body to ask for $1 million, $2 million to get a match to get us to $3 million. I just don't think that's likely. So my current recommendation is the least intrusive, the least expensive option number 1, and we can run through those options. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Thanks. Is it okay if I sit and control from here, or does this mouse work on the podium? Okay, thank you. For the record, my name is Ryan Chmielewski. I'm a licensed landscape architect with Weston and Sampson, right in Rocky Hill, about 10 minutes away. Thank you for having us here tonight, and as John said, I'll just run through this briefly. I believe most people in here have seen this before, but it's good to just refresh the memory. This is the team that has been working on it so far. Evan Andrikos and Joe Perugini. Joe's a civil engineer who's helped us work on the stormwater aspect, and Evan's been the right-hand man in the field, taking measurements, taking soil samples, digging holes, and things like that. This is just a brief overview of our company. We're up and down the East Coast. We have over 1,000 employees, and we do sports facilities up and down the East Coast. I happen to be the head lead designer for sports fields, so I'm happy to be a part of this project. We'll just go over the site overview, what we found in the field, the solutions, basic project timeline, and open it up for discussion if there's any questions. This is the project in a nutshell. You can see field 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then area 5 is just near the kick wall. Initially, the areas of poor drainage were identified in those 2 areas, but after what we found in the field, it's a little bit further than that. These are all the test holes we dug around the site, taking different groundwater measurements and seeing how, not groundwater, but percolation measurements of the soil, and we came out with indications that it's typical silty soil that doesn't really drain well on top. And then, like John said, the subsoils are almost impenetrable. This is just a picture that we received at one point of some of the flooding that happens on here. After reviewing some of the pipe networks out there and so on and so forth, we found that the pipes actually back drain towards this property, so it's tough to get anything out of the site. So once we establish, we look at the existing soil, we do a slope analysis, and then we look at subsurface drainage. This is just an if-then process to make those decisions. It's pretty scientific. And this is us doing the test holes. That's a double ring infiltrometer on the bottom left. That's the best way to evaluate soil in place. You could send it off to the lab, but there's nothing like getting it done in place. On the overall analysis, we look at the slopes based on the field type or the grading in the soils. It's not great. With the soil type we want, what that you currently have, you really want like a 1.5 or 1.25% pitch, and you can see a lot of it is less than 1%. We ran a slope analysis here. The green is generally okay. You can see fields 1 and 2, they're subpar, they're 0 to 1%. Some areas on the baseball fields are a little bit less as well. We also looked at the existing drainage. We popped some of the manhole covers, some of the dry wells out there, and we found that some of them are just over time. With that 20-year lifespan, when the water gets in, the fines and the sediments work their way up and choke up the system. So that's part of the drainage problem as well. This is the overall pipe network that we were talking about. So there's really nothing that serves the immediate fields besides the dry wells. And then this is the overall stormwater concept. It's really to connect the dry wells with underground chambers to provide extra stormwater capacity. We designed to a 50-year storm, recognizing back-to-back rainstorms and standard engineering design. On the bottom left, I think the last time I was here, people were having trouble visualizing what the storm chambers look like. Those ones there on the bottom left are all ganged up side by side. It's just one massive area, but this is spread out along the field in a linear fashion. In the dark blue, you can see. The red dots are the dry wells. So we have 3 options that we looked at. This is the sand cap buildup system. You're basically utilizing the existing grades that are out there and spacing the under drains depending on what the slopes are. So we have anywhere from 6 to 13 feet as proposed here. And with this system, you build a sand cap up over time, 1/4 inch a week. And it actually has some benefit to that because you're taking advantage of the poorly drained soil, so it could still hold nutrients and water a little bit better, but you're getting the advantage of being able to get on the field quicker after those back-to-back rainstorms, and it provides a good stable playing surface. I don't know if anyone has been watching the World Cup. There was a lot of science behind that, and to grow grass in all different climates and everything else, and some of the sand that's used in here is used in the World Cup fields. But it's just it's a really, it's according to ASTM standards, so it has to meet certain criteria. And basically the premise on that is if it does rain, your footing and people running over it can't really compact it like you would on a silty soil, native Connecticut soils. And then it's connected with 2 to 3 inch under drains spaced at different spacing. This is so part of that too is initially you try to amend the soil as much as possible, so we pull plugs down to the bottom of the topsoil layer, top dress with sand, backfill, and then start building up the sand cap. Option 2 is partial field reconstruction. Again, this was taking out a few inches of existing existing soil, and then building up 5 inches of sand, and then Bleckavating altogether. Bleckavate is just like a high-end rototiller for larger scale fields, and it really does a really good job mixing, and you would end up with an 8-inch root zone depth. So this one's a little bit more disturbing. You have to rip everything up and start from scratch, so that's has a little bit more time on it. But you get a nice homogeneous root zone there. And that's a Bleckavator on the right that I was talking about, just an oversized tiller. Option 3 was full depth reconstruction. The main advantage over this is, if you look at it, there's 8 inches of pre-blended root zone mix over the top of a gravel blanket with underdrains. The underdrains are spaced less because we would adjust all the grades and make them properly pitched. And the advantage of this is that having that gravel underdrain layer, the entire field will drain evenly across, rather than waiting on gravity to pull it to each of the drain lines or the sand slit drains. And this is just a specialized machine on the top right that runs those trenches, and those are collector pipes on the bottom right, and that's lightweight vehicles spreading the root zone mix. So here's an overall summary. We did update this file just to show each of the costs and the pros and cons for each one. Last time we did talk about some of the downtime could be mitigated by putting sod down, but that adds just some more cost to that as well. And that's it. This was just a basic project timeline. Any questions?
Okay, I'll open it up. Anyone who has any questions, feel free to just wave at me or John and go for them. Go ahead, John, you can start. Matt.
Sorry. All right, let me start with this real quick. And I guess I'm trying to visualize it. I'm trying to still just make sure I understand the value add and the bang for a buck kind of thing, right? So I guess what I'm trying to get through in my head is, hypothetically, if we had this field here, right, if we had 2 of them, okay, next to each other. One of them got option 1, one of them got option 3, okay? They're both done, they're both completed. Inch of rain comes, hits the fields, and it's 6 hours later. Do both fields look the same and have the same functionality, or are we getting something way better out of option 3 than we did out of option 1?
That's a good question. It'll be close, and I think it would just be a matter of how quick you could get back on.
Well, that's what I'm getting
Right.
is,
So the full depth reconstruction you could get on quicker, because everything's controlled and brought in fresh. Option 1, there's way less downtime than there would be now, and if there's back-to-back rainstorms, you'd be able to get on still sooner than you would now, but just not as quick as the full depth.
well, I guess that's where, I don't know if anyone else is with this. I'm trying to wrap my head around the extra 2 million. Is it, how much, and I know you may not be answering this directly, but like, what's the value add? How much quicker does it do it? How much, like I said, that's what I'm trying to compare the two, is if they're side by side, it's all completed and done. We're back on the one field way sooner, very similarly.
So to give it to you in a technical but hopefully understandable way, the sand-based root zone generally can drain 8 to 10 to 12 inches plus per hour. So you could get 8 inches of rain and be on it in the next hour. So that's how quickly it'll drain.
And that's option 3.
Option 3.
Okay.
If if you, if the further you go down, we generally would get 4 inches an hour. So that 4 inches an hour, if you had that same 8-inch rainstorm, it would just take 2 hours instead of 1 hour.
Okay. All right. That gives a little bit of clarity on that. Okay. Who had the question? Mr. Blanchett, go ahead.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think it was one of the later slides where you had the 1, 2, 3. I think option 1, you said continue until you get the desired solution. I didn't know what you meant by that. I don't know, it was a couple of slides towards the end.
Do you want me to go
Yeah,
back?
if you have the one that you have the 1, 2, 3
Option
side
one,
by side.
you mean like option one, you keep building on it until you get what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's that last one. It says continue until you reach the desired results. Is that a pro or a con?
So we aim for the 2 inches as a minimum, and then as the fields are, so you're top dressing a 1/4 inch at a time. You're building up. That's why it's called the sand cap buildup system. And so you look at it at that initial after construction, all the grass is grown in, it's ready to play. You evaluate and see how it performs, and then it's easy to keep adding sand on top. You could build up to 4 inches of sand over the top of it. So over time, you can do that. It will require you to continue to, as you're building up that inch, you'd want to add an inch of infield mix as well to the baseball fields. So that's just, everything has to be built up over time.
Yeah, I guess who's doing that? Is it just is that part of the option 1
So
cost? Or
that's the initial option. Like this is what we're recommending, is that 2 inches usually works.
I see.
But for whatever reason, if we're finding poor performance, or then as like an operating budget, you can top dress a 1/4 inch or raise
piecemeal.
a 1/2 inch or another inch per year until you're fully satisfied.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, I guess real quick in the last meeting, I believe there was someone from public comment who came before asking about the baseball, softball fields that are over there. Was there some sort of adjustment or something that we would need to look at or do in order to make sure that that was going to get impacted?
Yeah, so that was included in the cost for options 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because we're building up the soil profile, so we had the options for raising the infield. Option 3, you're reconstructing, so you're just basically
Yeah.
hogging everything out from at grade and making some minor adjustments in the overall grading plan.
All right, thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight, Ryan. I was wondering, is there a significant difference between these options in terms of amount of use? Because it seems to me it doesn't matter how fast these things drain unless our fields are already kind of overutilized. So unless there's some greater capacity of one of these to handle higher usage, then I'm just wondering if, I guess that's my point I'm getting at can we use option 3 a lot more than we can use option 1?
Yeah, so by renovating it, I think you would get equal use out of it. You're not gonna, with grass field, there's only a limit. Like to sustain a good, healthy stand of grass, you're at like 400 to 600 hours a year. That 400 to 400 hours is more of the poorly draining. It might even be less than that you should put on the field, or else you could, just destroy the field. But as you have well-draining fields, and when you incorporate sand and lessen the amount of compaction that can happen, then you can start to reach that 600, the amount of time that you could use the fields. Now for baseball, it really, like, you could just get the use out of it as many hours as you could put on it, because there's not as much action running around on the outfield, and the skinned infield is handling all the abuse, and it's just keeping up with that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Am I wrong, though? We're here to discuss the drainage, though. The field usage is a separate matter. So, we need to address the drainage. Right now, we're in a drought and the fields are draining fairly well, or evaporating.
I think it hasn't rained enough so that the capacity that the fields do have easily accommodated that inch and a half that came last year.
So my question is there a possibility that the town could select to do, the two soccer fields first and then the baseball fields, or any proportion of that?
Sure, a phased approach is, we do that all the time with, big endeavors like this, understanding what the town's capacity is for funding or grants or things like that. It's, they're in kind of two separate areas, the soccer and the baseball fields. So from a construction standpoint and staging, that could work. And then even if it, depending on which system, the least disruptive, I would just recommend getting it done all at once, because you're mobilizing once, you're getting it done, and then you'll pay a cost premium to mobilize twice and get it done twice.
So, if I may add further, we're here to discuss which option so that we are shovel-ready, and we can at least make a pitch for state bonding. We've had a discussion today, John and I, and we're also looking at purchasing help me out, John, what am I thinking? An aerator with longer tines so that the plugs are pulled out are longer. But again, John and I discussed this, and I concur with his recommendation that you consider option one as the choice. And I agree with him. I think the town would stand a better chance of getting funding from other sources with option one. And in the meantime, we're gonna continue to try different things, such as the purchasing of an aerator with longer tongs and get the longer plugs and get the holes for the drainage.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Mr. Waters?
I'm gonna date myself on my age on this. How many of you people in this room was around when the Wiz School building was in progress?
I was in 5th grade.
Al, I think it's only you.
That's all right, we're about the same age, I'm a little older than you. I'm sorry?
Yeah, Dan.
You were on a school building committee, okay. Okay, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. The school building committee was concerned about the pesticides on the shoe property where the nursery was.
No, that's not. No, there was two different committees formed. An acquisition committee, it was run by the town council, or it was really the first selectman at the time. Right? He was negotiating, I'm sorry, thank you. He was negotiating for the property. There was all sorts of issues regarding acquisition of that property to begin with, right?
Right.
And they finally came to resolution of it. At the time, there was a promise to the townspeople that when we acquired this property to put a school on it, we would remediate all the chemicals, whatever was used for the purposes of farming. There was people who took that on and formed a committee to take a look at that as to what needed to occur. The school building committee focused on what was the requirements of the school and building the school. The land acquisition people put together, and we built the school on that land based upon the requirements. And so there was a whole lot of work done before we even got shovel-ready to put a school on that property. And that's when we picked it up and ran with it. That's my recollection, Al, was that the property acquisition was run separately from ultimately the school building committee itself. Now, there may have been elements of people that were on the school building committee that also supported that work as well. But when I was on the school building committee, our focus was on the building of the actual school based
Right.
upon the land that was provided.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They hired an engineer, a agricultural engineer, to come out and give his opinion of what would be necessary, the least expensive. I know the engineer turned around and told the school building committee, you can build up on that hill, you don't have to touch nothing, where the President's School is right now. Nothing had to be touched there. As far as the lower level, his recommendation was to turn around. It was gonna take about 3 years, but it was gonna be, get somebody in there, hire a company or town, plow it, harrow it, let it sit a year. The next year, plow it and harrow it and wait another year, and by that time you test it and there's probably gonna be nothing there at all. But some of the parents turned around and didn't want that, they didn't buy that, they were just pushing to get that. So my opinion, what I felt at the time, what it cost us, the taxpayers, to get rid of all that topsoil that was good and haul it to Massachusetts for $1 million. The guy burns it, got all the stuff
Right.
out of it, and he turns around and sells it for $1.5 million.
Right.
We got bamboozled because we should never have touched it. Now what they brought back in was garbage.
Yeah.
No drainage.
Hey,
Yeah.
the only thing I can say to that, Al, and I do recall some of the elements that we were talking about, the only thing I can say is I never sat in a meeting as part of the school building committee having that conversation. Not one meeting that I sat in on where we had a conversation about alternatives as to how to process that land. Like, as I said before, when they acquired that property, there was a promise made at that, when we went to a referendum on that, there was a promise made that when we put a school on a farm, it was gonna be safe, right? And I think people took that to heart, right? They said, okay, all right, make that part of your budget and make sure that this property is safe, because people were concerned. They're concerned about taking, we could take, Hoffman's farm and turn it into something up there, right? I mean, but there's all sorts of stuff that's been done up there. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. People who were on the committee weren't experts on it.
Okay.
So without relitigating that,
Right.
I want to kind of bring us back to, with respect to Al, just to the drainage issue that's in front
Well,
of us.
if I may.
Sure.
To conclude, that we let that school building committee with the land, whoever was charged with the land, all right, pull that stuff out, put garbage in there. Now, we are gonna pay for it dearly? That's what bothers me.
You know
That's a
what?
big mistake they
You know what,
made.
Al, regardless of what you're saying, you allowed the town. The school building committee is a representative of the town. When we built the school over here, everything that goes with that school it's the town's. It's not the school building committee. It's not the people who volunteer to be there. It's not the land acquisition committee. They made decisions, right? Did they make the right decisions once? I'm not litigating that here
And
right now.
we're not
But
here
it's
to
the town.
relitigate that, yeah.
It's
So
the town.
and
So now the
listen,
town's gotta come to some resolution on it.
there we go.
Can I ask a question, James?
Sure,
Okay.
Sam, go ahead.
So, the part I'm struggling with on this, option one versus option three, and I perfectly understand the reason for option one, right? Less cost, less downtime, everything else. But you came in, John, and you said the problem is 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whenever it was, we put 3 feet of the wrong soil in there. And the only one that takes care of that is option three. Option one just top dresses the crap that's already there. So I'm not understanding. It feels like we're talking about like there's very little variation between these 3 options. Yet the only one that solves the problem is option 3. So it feels to me like option 1, maybe that's the best option for us at the time because we only have so much money. We can get a grant possibly, and it won't downtime the field. But there's got to be more maintenance. There's got to be something about option 1, long term, that doesn't solve the problem that option 3 solves. And it feels like we are just not even having that conversation here. Like I don't get it.
We discussed this. and the situation is, you got your tax bills last Friday. To come up with 3.1 million is highly unlikely. It's also highly, from the taxpayers, it's also highly unlikely that we're gonna be able to get any money from other sources at that level, at 3.1 million. And as a result, we went with what we felt was possible to get funding, either eventually from the taxpayers or from other sources. And this gentleman here, we have funding set aside right now to have one or any portion of the other ones, because we're probably gonna have to pay more at this time.
Yeah, we're working on that.
I understand.
Yeah.
So there's a
it's just-
potential that what we have may not be enough to now design option 2 or 3. So, being realistic, John and I discussed this, and the realistic option, in our opinion, and of course, you're right, I agree. In a perfect world, I tell you, do 3 and shut it down for a year and go with it.
Tony, that's not the issue I have, right? We might decide on option 1 because it's most expedient and it's what we can afford, and that's fine. I get that part, right? But to sit here and say, well, okay, the fields are only going to be, an hour longer for downtime from option 1 to option 3, to me sounds ridiculous, okay? If we go all the way through option 3, reconstruct this whole thing, put new fields in, and have that, my expectation is that next 25 years, right, our maintenance cost goes down, our field usage is greater, our ability to get back on the field is significantly enhanced. And if we do option 1, we're going to be better than we are today, but we're going to be less optimal than we would ever want to be. And if we were having that conversation, I'd be good. But we're not. We're like, yeah, option 3, yeah, we might get a little bit better, but we're going to spend $3 million. Option 1, that's actually pretty damn good. That's probably 90%. That's what I'm hearing. That's like 90% of the way there. I can't believe that. I can't believe that we're going to do full depth reconstruction and not have that significantly better outcome for a long-term solution for fields at the West School than doing top dressing in option 1. That's what we're doing, top dressing in option 1. Am I, maybe I'm misspeaking. That's what it feels like. You're not solving what you said was the biggest issue.
Well, none of them solve what's the biggest issue. I mean, the option 3 doesn't take out the 3 feet. It takes out a portion of the top.
Okay.
8 inches, 11 inches, I don't recall. You can pull up the side, I suppose. 12 inches total of the 3 feet.
And what's option 1 do on that?
Option 1 gives you a sand cap layer that when the water precipitates and hits that hard layer, hits that hard layer underneath, it has somewhere to run. And when it runs, it's running into drains that aren't there now. That's the difference.
And let me just jump in before Steve, I know you want to go. The issue here is about drainage capacity and where the water goes. So, right, if the question is, if you want to solve, what John said at the last meeting is if you want to solve the underlying problem, Dan, you're 100% right, you have to get rid of all the soil. But the problem that we're trying to solve is a result of that soil. But the question is, what will solve the problem, which is where should the water go? And I think the recommendation has changed because they have realized and studied and kind of seen that even with the water table where it is, the point is you're always going to need somewhere for the water to go. Option 1 gets you to where the water goes. Option 3 gets it a little better, but at the end of the day, option 3 still has option 1 built into it as its baseline, right? Option 3 would still involve what I'm calling the catacombs, or is it just?
Yeah,
Every option has, I'm calling them the catacombs.
Yeah, every option has the subsurface chambers.
Yeah, so I think the
Stormwater
key,
chambers.
right, the key is the chambers, and then everything else is built on top of that. So anyways, go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Ryan, thank you for being here. Could you just walk it back to the subsurface drainage slide? It's like 6 slides back, maybe 7.
This?
So, I'll have you go forward. I propose the solution one slide. I see a lot about, don't move, and a lot about, the grading, which is great. And all makes perfect sense, certainly. And it seems to address the first bullet point. And another thing was what John said, there's something with the drain right. The other 4 bullets there, structure is not maintained, installed correctly, filled with sediment, so on and so forth, right? That's called out as the issues. Are those 4 bullets addressed in option 1?
Yes.
And does that mean then that it's gonna be some replacement of some of the existing, maybe modifying or fixing some of the ones that are there?
Correct. Correct.
That's good, so it's not just putting topsoil or top dressing on, it's doing something else all this drainage, right? And then, again, I'm not the drainage expert at all, but considering that all the fields sit below Gear Street, which is a hard surface, which has, water runs off of that all in this field, plus Wiss, I think, sits up higher, so all that water runs down. I'm sure you guys have thought about it, maybe you already have an answer, maybe no, it doesn't, it's drained somewhere else. I just wanted to hear, like, Wiss itself's not a problem, Gear Street's really not a problem.
For the most part, Gear and Woodside are catch basins that are directed elsewhere. There are a couple of connections that are not on design plans, but were made at some point. I've been here 12 years, they want to be here my 12 years, I've asked staff, nobody seems to know how to do that. But there are connections that appear to direct street drainage to the field. They're clogged. They were put in with blind connections. The one that comes off of New Street runs a distance of about 20 feet, makes a turn, doesn't get anything. I'm not sure it's doing anything, but it was at one point routed into the fields. I don't know whose idea that was, or why they thought of doing it, but it's there. And then on the other side, at some point, Brent, you scroll forward, I think 1 or 2 slides with the agenda of that one. The thing is circled in black dashes. Those are the drains coming off mostly the baseball fields that are piped out to Woodside. And for some reason, those go uphill a little bit. So they're not perfectly laid, but they go uphill, so they have a certain capacity where they stop working. So, right, the water table's gotta be up to the level of the pipe in order for it to flow. Once the water table falls below the level of the pipe, it's not flowing out anymore. So they have limited drainage coming into that pipe network. With that said, since the WIS was built, there's been 3 subdivisions added to that neighborhood. You've got Laybourne, you've got, I don't know the next one, but there's a brand new one right next to that, and the one next to that. So all the drainage in that area is all trying to go into Woodside Road, a very flat pipe, because Woodside is almost dead flat, right? So that, and all that storm drainage goes down parallel behind the houses on Laybourne, not behind Woodside, in a very flat pipe. So there really isn't an opportunity to connect the field drainage to the street drainage and hope it goes away, because it's also a bathtub set over the street. But for the most part, the street drainage is good.
And then in the future, then, would there be any more blue lines running through the field, so to speak, where we're connecting things differently? Is that
Yes.
a thought?
Yes, very much.
And that's kind of what that picture is?
Correct. It's a high-level
Okay.
overview.
Did you see where it says 6-inch typical with big arrows running north
Yeah.
and big arrows running south? There's a series of drains under there that are leading out to that large collection system that runs around in the horseshoe shape.
Yeah.
So that's showing just a big pipe, but in between, what is it, 6 to 13?
Yeah, so that's 6, so the bottom field is 6 feet because that's the flattest, and it's like 0 to 0.5%.
Right.
And then this one, you have a little bit more pitch, so we're able to space them out a little bit.
And then an option, I'm sorry, option 1 will have this in it then?
Yes.
Okay.
So a drop of water hits the field. If the drains are 6 feet on center, that means that the drop of water, farthest it has to go to get the drainage is 3 feet. Right now, it has to go to one of those dry wells on the front, which could be 150 feet, depending on where you are.
Thank you. And then at some point, probably when you do the design, or maybe not, maybe just have to speak to it, like, what do you envision for like a 5 or 10-year maintenance to this? Like, to the point of one solution maybe has less maintenance, maybe one has another, but, so we're talking solution one a lot, that's what I'm sticking with. What's the maintenance look like for, like, it's sort of one of these things where we just have to have a maintenance plan and then stick to it. Clean, 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 fix, blah, 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 so on and so forth, don't let it deteriorate. And is that possible to have in a plan? Does that make sense? Is that what you'd recommend? There would be a plan to do that kind of thing, and what would that look like?
Yeah, so as part of this, as part of the detailed design, we would put together the SWIP, the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. Did I get that right? All right. So that would identify all that. So there's two different things. I hope you don't maintain the fields every 5 years, the actual grass. That needs to be maintained on a continual basis. Today, your fields that you have should be maintained, and they are maintained. But yeah, you can't, it's not a set it and forget it. You have to maintain your fields. Now, each of the underground chambers, you see the red dots, there's inspection ports where you could pull those out and just periodically look at them to see if sediment is building up. And if it is, you just have to vacuum them out periodically.
Similar to storm drains we have on the side of the road type
Correct.
of activity?
Correct.
And then, maybe the last question, I know it's been hard to get around this idea. Again, with the option of the ultimate, the option 3 versus, option 1. As long as we do the maintenance for option 1, are we at least closer to what option 3 would give? I know we have to talk extensively about option 3, but are we at least close with option 1 if we commit to the long-term maintenance? And we commit to continue to aerate or whatever else, or other practical and pragmatic things that aren't overly expensive, should we expect then that we'll be able to support, good drainage on these fields? I would expect the maintenance of all three options to be relatively similar, if not the same. Can you comment on that?
Correct. So option 3 actually might require a little more maintenance depending on the final soil mix that we put in there. The more sand you put in, like a true high-performing sports field is like 90% sand, 10% soil, I'll call it, or organics. So that has higher inputs of irrigation and fertilizers and things like that, because it just doesn't have that holding capacity. With that, the way it's designed, and I'll just go, we'll get a little technical here because it's worth pointing out. On option 3, you could see that there's the 8 inches of root zone mix and then 4 inches of the drainage stone. So the water will be held in that full 8-inch profile till it reaches saturation, and then it'll start to drain into the soil below. So it will tend to hold onto the water and drive the roots to grow that deep, which is a good advantage. But it has evapotranspiration going the opposite way. On the hot days, all the water's evaporating out. That'll just require a little more water. And then if we go back to the first option, this is option 1, you're improving the drainage. You can see those little lines going down in the existing 6 inches of topsoil. Those are all the plugs that you would core down and take out and remove, and you're backfilling, and those become sand. So over time, you could still do that core aeration, so you improve the soil over time. It's just not as immediate. And then the cap is handling the immediate need for draining the soil, the water down in a much more timely manner.
Thank you, Ryan.
What's the life expectancy on the, I'm gonna call them catacombs, but on the catacombs, like, will we have to go in and dig them up in 20 years and replace them and re-pour in 50 years, 100 years, like?
I hope not. I think we'll all be gone before you have to dig them up.
What's the, but what's the life expectancy on them?
We have them all over town. We have them in the new, brand new school. So it's a matter of inspection. Like you said, there's inspection ports. If someone stops inspecting them for some reason and they become clogged, that's a problem.
You can see there, based on this diagram, I believe this is all underground chambers, just like for the West School. So you have them in two different locations. And how long ago was that school built?
23 years ago,
Yeah, and there's-
24 years, 22 years ago. So like you were thinking like 50, with maintenance, 50, 100 years.
Yeah, so they're made of plastic, which lasts forever.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't go away.
So, and what do we need to do as a town to make sure that we actually like follow through on the maintenance and clear out the drains and remove the sediment? Like, is there something that we need to be doing as like a PM program for that we haven't been doing? And is that on the school or is that on us? It's on us. So it's our field. It's on us. Okay. So, is there a PM program that we need to implement and think about budgeting for in future years to make sure that the drains stay clean? And we do the what you guys were talking about, the better tilling, deeper tilling, aerating. I'm just flagging that because if the drains are clogged and the reason they're not working is because they're clogged, why aren't they on? Right now they're clogged. So like, what is our guarantee that moving forward they're going to be continually unclogged?
Well, the task is simple, because we currently go around town and vacuum roughly
Great.
800 catch basins a year, so it's a matter of doing the delta, 800 plus whatever that is, 10. Purchase order's bigger, and,
Okay, but we have the capacity to do it, and we'll be planning, build it in.
I'm assuming the vac truck can drive out there, maybe I'm wrong. I'm assuming there's a big heavy vehicle.
I gotcha.
I'm assuming they can drive out there, maybe it's a specialized equipment, because it's, I'm thinking that probably the vac truck can do it.
Thank you. Just two kind of questions. One is, I heard someone say, I think it was maybe Josh, I don't know, someone said that these fields are more prone to damage now. So I was wondering, just in general, if we do nothing, if we delay this, is there like some kind of accumulation of damage that will drive up the cost or something like that? And then the second question was probably a little bit more technical and simple, but is there a cap or a maximum thickness of this sand layer thing that you've talked about?
I don't think you would have to go over the 4 inches, because you'd get the performance that you would absolutely need. And that sand that we put on top and cap with is basically the 90-10 sand mix. So high-performing sports fields, collegiate level, have like 12 to 18 inches up to. And actually, they're also blended with like synthetic fibers as well, so it's much more sturdy. But that's really not a consideration here, because that gives ultimate stability. You don't see players slipping. You see downpour happening, but there's no puddles on the fields. That's because it's a highly engineered system. So what was the first question?
I guess if we drag our feet on this, or if we don't do anything, is there some like kind of permanent damage that we could like? Will it get so silted that it just can't? I don't know. I was just curious if there's any like.
That's where it's kind of at now. It's silted, and with silty soils like that, if you play on when they're saturated or when there's rain and you're creating divots and mud and everything else, you're basically ruining the soil structure. You don't have all the pores and voids and everything that are needed for drainage. So that's why they have a shelf life. Fields have a shelf life. So you'd have to, when we're at that point now, what do you do with the soil that you have out there? Are we amending in place? Are we top dressing? Like, these are all the options we're considering.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the good answers.
Thank you. Is option 1, I heard the town manager mention looking into purchasing an aerator that could be used for maintenance of the fields. How does the cost of that figure into option 1 scenario? And I believe you said, but I want to make sure I understand, that the town would have the capacity to use that aerator and to manage the maintenance of the field.
So we have an aerator now. Oh, you do? Yeah, it was used this week, without service. It's doing very shallow aeration. You put a finger in and I get to just about the second, but almost that inch and a half. The recommendation from various sources, China, if you want, is deep tine aeration is required. And in addition to that, you want to be pulling out soil plugs. I have an area in my house, I pull behind my mower and the light goes around and pulls these little plugs out. And I have holes in the ground. This one, for whatever reason, is just making holes in the ground with no plugs. So what that's doing is it's taking the tight soils and displacing them, right? Because they're not coming out, they're just kind of moving to the side and moving down. So it's actually kind of making that little bit compact on it. It's giving it a little cup for water to sit in. But it's, I don't, it's helping, but it's not the optimal treatment. So something that's on edge, and I would suggest it.
The aeration would be regardless, the aerators regardless of which option you choose, you'd want to get that aerator.
Well, yeah, we have to do it on all our.
So it's not really connected to option one,
Yeah, that was kind of where I was going. Thank you.
Yeah, it's used a lot.
Could I comment on the current aerator? So that's a solid tine aerator. So if it's not pulling out the plugs, then it's solid tine. And that's, over time, you're basically jamming the soil down. So wherever that's hitting, it's further compacting that silty soil right below. So it's basically creating a impenetrable. S- So there's different types of aeration, and some are just slicing the soil as opposed to pulling plugs out as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, we could get into a long discussion. There's several different kinds, and we'll be happy to help on selection if you need some advice.
Other questions?
Mr. John, correct me if I'm wrong. When we were discussing this a few months back, the drainage that goes off the field that goes down Leghorn Drive,
Limited amount does, yes.
that there goes behind, like, Bethany Lutheran Church. And to my knowledge, I was told, I can be wrong, but that's not being maintained for proper drainage, because that brook would go all the way down past almost to Washington Road, that particular brook. And it hasn't been being maintained because it wound up being open. You got vegetation growing there. It's not a full pipeline. But talking about maintenance, that has not been being maintained.
I'm not aware of that. Have you brought that to the attention of management, or?
I'm just talking.
Sounds like you know something, but I'm not aware that nobody's maintaining that.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, that was one of the things that was mentioned a couple of months ago when we were talking about this problem, especially the Leghorn.
The water is certainly flowing. A couple of years ago, when everybody was pumping out their basements over there, I went and looked, and the water is definitely moving, and there wasn't a lack of maintenance issue then. I don't know if you're asking me if I go out and look at all of the drainage in town, like.
No, I'm
all
just
the
saying
outfalls in
that
town.
particular issue only I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, let's say it is clogged. That doesn't have any bearing on what's going on at the fields. We're here to talk about the drainage on the fields.
Well, the drainage is coming from the fields down there, correct? It's going out to the street drains and then going down Leghorn Drive.
We're not proposing to route the drainage that way. We're proposing to get the water into the ground.
So
Understandable.
let me kind of zoom us back out. If there are problems with other ancillary drainage systems associated with the General Gear Street area, Lutheran Church, wherever, we can have a separate conversation about what we need to do to make sure we're maintaining all of that. I think the most germane part of that is this drainage system under any of the plans, is it self-contained, or it does feed into the ancillary, it'll be part of the network, or is it all self-contained? Is it an isolated system?
Drain.
I'm not 100% sure if they're maintaining the connection to.
That's why I'm asking.
I'll go back to the plan here. Can I call a friend? No. It looks like we are tying into it, for the case, like if you look, can you see the cursor? Yeah. So we have this surrounding underground stormwater chambers, so we haven't really talked about this, but there's a 3 to 4 feet of really poor, almost like glacial till soils. And then below that is beautiful draining sand. So we're basically breaking that hydraulic connection and getting the stormwater into that sand below, which is great. This is just, you always want to try to connect and as a backup. For a potential overflow, the chances of it getting there with how well the sand drains below, it's very small. But again, I'm not a civil engineer, PE, I'm a landscape architect.
May I just one? Correct me if I'm wrong again. Isn't that area on a sand vein?
We mentioned tonight that there's nice sand underneath, is that what you're talking about?
Below that, just, I know from, anywhere from Cromwell Funeral Home all the way up to Rocky Hill.
Generally, that side of town has beautiful coarse sand, bank run gravel,
So
that kind of thing.
it's
Yeah.
on a sand vein.
Yeah, and so, to his point, we're trying to get the water down to that vein, and that's what this system does. The connection to the street is an overflow. They said last time it's designed for a 50-year storm. If it gets full, repeated storms, 50-year storm, it's gonna drain. There is gonna be this overflow connection. Belt and suspenders.
Any other questions from anybody on either board?
Yes,
Go
so
ahead.
option one, because you got the picture. So with a 2-inch top dressing, you'll still be able to create the desired slope. Or,
Option one, we're not changing any slopes, we're just building on top of what's there, and you're relying on the spacing of the drains. We space them based on that slope, so that recommendation is at 6 feet on center, so that it has limited time to travel and work down into those drains.
okay. I maybe misunderstood from your slide one, yeah. Do you have that up? The next slide, I think it is.
Back or forward?
Forward. Yeah, maybe I just misunderstood from the picture on the top there.
The picture on the right, top
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's just talking about the potential spacing, and you could see it says 6 to 13 feet, 2 to 4 inch lines, 12 to 18 inches deep, and then it says basically that's a 0.5 to 2% slope.
Yeah, I thought you were saying in some areas we have like 0 to 0.5.
Correct.
Okay, but that's fine. So you're saying you're gonna indiscriminately create a level 2-inch top.
Correct. It's whatever's out there today,
You'll follow the pitch.
You're gonna follow the pitch.
Gotcha.
The spacing of the pipes is tighter because the slope is flat.
Makes sense, okay.
If it had been pitched 2%, they probably would have put them at 13 foot on center.
Yeah, correct. And plus,
right, thanks.
we say 12 to 18 inches down, but you have the ability with those machines to, because it's all laser guided, is set that half percent slope on the drain pipes. So when the water does reach there, even though the field surface level.
Right, those lateral drains
Yeah.
are pitched to the horseshoe.
Correct. So
Okay.
they'll have
Yeah.
a minimum of 0.5% pitch.
Good. Thanks.
Sorry, just a quick.
Yes, Mr. Wagonowski.
Thank you. So back, I know I went that subsurface drainage slide, and there was the 5 points. Remember, we had that conversation? And the first point was surface grades not directing water correctly. And so I think what we're saying is we're not gonna change the surface grade. I think Mr. Blanchett just asked that question. I think he confirmed that our goal with option one is not to necessarily change the grade. If it happens from some other reason, by accident or whatever else, so be it, but we're gonna look more for the underlying underneath with the drains to really do that.
Correct. And that's why it's a more cost-effective option, because you're not doing major earthwork to get this completed.
Does it lead to then, like, if the 2 inches doesn't work, and it's a year from now, or 2 years, or whatever this thing is done, someone could say, oh, let's add another inch somehow, but maybe do that in a way where it does potentially improve the grade, or no, you wouldn't suggest that?
No, because really your water is it hits the subgrade and it travels at the same pitch. So you really, in an ideal situation, that's why the full depth reconstruction, we would modify all the grades so the subgrade matches the finished grade, and you get the ideal pitch on that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so, Mr. Ireland and I were talking about this. We think because the money is already allocated and no additional funds are needed, Board of Finance doesn't have to take a vote on it. I think the council has to take a vote on the design because it's already been allocated. However, I do want to let the Board of Finance members weigh in if they have a preference of an option, so that way the council can hear your feedback. And you don't have to have, if you want to pass, you can pass, no one's on the spot. But I think, and Sharon and Tony, do you agree with that assessment, that Board of Finance doesn't have to take a vote on this since the money's already allocated?
That's correct.
Okay. That said, though, you are our partners at the table, and that's why you're here. So do folks have any recommendations back to the council from where you're sitting, from your kind of global perspective financially, all the other stuff that you guys consider, that you want the rest of the councilors to know before the council takes a vote on a option?
I guess, all right, I'll jump real quick. So, I guess just from my standpoint, there's been a lot of talk around, trying to find some other ways to try to take care of this project, if at all possible, to get funding sources from bonding or the state, or whatever the case might be. Again, with my original question, I'm still trying to find where the delta between 3 and 1 really will come into a major play and impact. I think at the same time too, if we are going to try to go some other means to try to find ways to do this, I also want to make sure we're seeing the forest of the trees, where we are approaching them with an option that seems to be more reasonable and realistic, because as other members have come before us too from the town, we obviously have a plethora of other items and issues that we need to address and take care of. So I guess just for me, from my standpoint, I think I would look to option 1. I think that would hopefully be something that we could put together, that'd be reasonable, that we can talk to folks about, and then hopefully it also doesn't shut the door on taking care of other things the town has needs for, because if we go with a big number, that might hurt us very much in the long run in trying to get other things done. So that's my quick 2 cents on it. I don't know if anyone else on my board wants to add to that, but that would be my quick start. Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, John. Yeah, no, I'm very similar, in line of thought. I wish we could do nothing. That'd be the first thing. The first thing would be get this other aerator machine in there, do some other things, whatever else we could do. What are the other things you can do for smaller amounts of money, and see if that does, including enforcing the policies and not using the fields when they shouldn't be used. All the other things collectively, so we're all together in community. It's not a town council, board of finance, or people in this room trying to do it on our own. It's everybody together working toward it. That'd be my first thought, with the problem. I don't think these fields are gonna get any worse. 10 years from now, it's gonna be the same situation. They're as bad as they're gonna get. It is just what it is. It all depends on, how bad the weather gets. But with option 1, it would be nice if we proceed with this, that if the design, if it was possible, if we do look in there for layers and say, there's a way to do it for $500,000 or something else, as opposed to this $1.5 million. I'd be interested if there was some layering options, to this as well. But I do understand, it seems like you gotta go into the ground, you gotta change all those drains, and that's probably where most of the cost is probably gonna end up being with this. But, again, we do have a lot of other things to spend money on, for sure. There's no doubt, a lot of competition, so if we can find a grant for this, that'd be great. But option 1, to me, seems to make the most sense if we're gonna do anything.
Yeah, I think so I agree. I think the reality of the situation right now for the town and where we are from a spend perspective and where we need to make investments, option 1 is probably the right place to go. I just hope it delivers the expected results, right? Because we're gonna tell people we're gonna spend $1.5 million, and now these fields are gonna be playable. right? And this has been the issue, right? Obviously, kids cannot go out and play when they want to go out and play, or teams have to cancel games because the fields become unplayable. And I just hope this solves the problem for a much better situation than what they have today. Okay, I know I went on a little bit of a tangent earlier. I just want to make sure that we're making very informed decisions, and that when we have options in front of us and we're making a fiscal decision versus a long-term decision on our infrastructure, that we are looking at it in the right way and that we have all the information in front of us. And I just feel like for something that's going to be probably $4 million, $5 million on option 3, there has to be much more tangible results that you get out of that from a field that's delivered than $1.5 million to $2 million on option 1. And I just don't hear that. Okay, so maybe we're selling option 1. I get it. Okay, but I still come away from, and John said this, I still come away from, like, why are we even talking about option 3 if that's really the only difference is small? And it doesn't feel to me like it can possibly be small.
Anybody else?
I'll just chime in, like the town manager said, if there's a way to phase this in, or if there's a way as either part of the quote or the design to say, how can you modulate the soccer field area different from the baseball? I mean, just looking at the picture, the soccer field area is where the horseshoe is. I know the baseball field has lateral drains as well that go in there, but if there's an option to say, hey, this is a project and A phase could be just the soccer and B phase could be just the baseball, just having that optionality when it comes time to actually put shovels in the ground might be helpful.
Thank you. Any other comments, Chris or Jamie? Okay. So thank you to the Board of Finance for participating in this and coming here. I know it's a long evening for you all, and I appreciate it. Your input's really appreciated. And thank you for all the work that you do for town. And let me just say, as people are getting their tax bills, I know you worked very, very hard that evening and all through the year to really balance all of the different interests and make sure that we're running a good ship. So thank you for the work that you guys do. Okay, counselors, deliberative body that you are, I'll accept a motion for one of the 3 options, or none of the options, I hypothetically guess, if anyone wants to make a motion. Mr. Waters.
If I may, like the town manager said, as far as the tax bills, et cetera, if we go into shovel-ready with number 1, we give grant money, correct?
We are going to very aggressively try to get grant money, yeah.
So at that point, then it wouldn't be harmful to go with number 1. We'd get reimbursed.
Yeah, if we get a grant successfully,
yes,
yeah.
The word if. And if we don't, then the burden's on the taxpayers, which the burden right now is on the taxpayers for the school. So they're getting a double hit, which I agree with the town manager that, well, I don't have the money tree in my backyard.
Neither do I. I know.
You know?
I know.
But that's my opinion. I would like to see if it's shovel-ready, and then put number 1 out there and see how it goes.
So is that a motion for number 1?
I'd put a motion for number 1.
Okay. Second. A motion's been made for number 1, seconded by Mr. DeProto. Any further discussion on that? Okay.
This is just for the study,
This is,
right?
no, not the study, the design.
Well, okay, design, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
The study already happened. This is the latter. Yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
It's like governments love setting up committees to talk about setting up committees to set up committees. So we're done with the setting up of the committees to set up committees. We've done the study. This is the result. We did the first study, then we did the engineering study, and now we're going to go ahead with design. So a motion's been made and a seconded to design number 1. This is not part of the motion, but ideally, I think some of the feedback we heard, if modulation or phases is something that's possible, if there's a way to do that, that'd be really cool. That's not part of the motion, but just something to put in the ether. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of voting for design of option 1, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously. With that, that's the end of our formal business. It's a special meeting. We cannot amend the agenda. I'll take a motion to adjourn at 7:20.
Second.
Made by Al, second by Jamin. And